Welcome back, guys. We are going to be doing some more logic puzzles and on the Brilliant app. So in this one, we are doing unknown answers. In this lesson, you won't be able to completely understand the information that the beings give you. Even when you don't quite understand, comparing answers can still help you uncover the truth. Right, Marv arrives at another booth full of humans and human-like androids for him to identify. As before, androids always lie, humans always tell the truth. The first two are eerily silent, as if daring Marv to speak first. Okay. Which of these questions should Marv ask to learn the most about two beings' identities? Right. So, do you like chocolate isn't going to give us an answer. Are you human? Right, if I ask, are you human? An android would say yes, because they always lie. A human would say yes, because they always tell the truth. So we're not going to learn anything. They're both going to say the same answer if we ask, are you human? If we ask, are you an android? The human would say no, and the android would say no, because they always lie. So if I ask, are you an android? They're both going to say the same answer. So it's got to be this. Right, if you ask, are you both humans? The human would say no. And the android would say yes, because he always lies. So, which of these questions should Marv ask to learn the most about the two beings? Well, this is going to give us two different answers, so that's going to give us the most information. Okay, happy days. Good start. Suppose that Marv asked, are you both humans, and he got the answers below. What would the identities be? Yes, are you both human? Right, so we're not both human. We are both human. That's got to be the right combination. Right, Marv encounters two beings whispering to themselves, but he can't understand what they're saying. He asks them if they're both human. Instead of answering yes or no, they reply in some strange language. Okay. All Marv can tell is that they give different answers. What can Marv conclude? So what did he ask them? Are you both human? I know I've already worked this out, but I can't remember what conclusion I came to. Are you both human? Is they're going to answer differently. So all Marv can tell is that they gave different answers. So one of them is human, one of them is an android. What I want to know is, if I asked, are you both androids? What would the answers be? Okay, so if I asked, are you both androids? One of them, or the yeah. If they're an android and I ask, are you both androids? Then they're going to say no, because they lie. If they're a human and you say, are you both androids? They're going to say no, because they tell the truth. So asking, are you both androids, is not going to give us any more information. So the only good answer, the only good question here is, are you both humans? Okay. Happy days. Another pair of beings come along. Marv asks them, each of you tell me, is the other being an android? They each answer But once again, in their own language, Marv doesn't understand. This time, they both give the same answer, but Marv doesn't know if it means yes or no. Okay. Right, I might need some pen and paper for this. Right. So, if they're a human, how many are there? Each of you tell me. Another pair of beings. So there's two beings. So if they're a human, and he asks, is the other being an android? The human would say yes. And the android would also say yes, because he would lie. This time, they both give the same answer, but it doesn't make any difference because both of them are going to say yes. Yeah, I think it's not enough information. Happy days. Okay, now, three beings come by. Marv asks them, how many of you are androids? Marv can't understand their answers, but he can tell that they all said the same word. Another being joins them, and Marv again asks, how many of you are androids? They all give the same answer, but a different one from the first one. How many of the four beings are androids? Okay. Right, let's start off with the three. Marv can't understand their answers, but he can tell you. Right. How many of you are androids? So if they are human, and he asks how many of you are androids, the human would give them an answer. Let's say one. An android would say a different answer than the human. So let's just say two for now. So because they're all saying the same answer, they have to all be human or all be androids. Okay, so that's the first conclusion. They're either all human or they're all androids. When another being joins them, they say a different answer, but they all give the same answer. So now, because we know from the first one that they have to all be androids or all humans, when another one joins, right, what is the question? How many of you are androids? So, right, if they're human, the answer is going to be none, no matter how many of them join. So the answer wouldn't change. And so, because we know that they're all androids, if they're not all human, then all of them are androids, and the answer changed. So yeah, they're all androids. How many of the four beings are androids? It's got to be four. Hey, happy days. The secret language is making things difficult, so it's time for a plan. Marv decides to learn the two most important words, yes and no. This will guarantee his ability to separate the androids from the humans. Which of these questions will get the response yes from both an android and a human? I know I've already worked this out, but let's do it again. So, if it's an android and you ask, are you human? They're going to say yes. And if they are a human and you say, are you human? They'll say yes. So, the question is, which of these questions will get the response yes? So asking them if they're a human will get the response yes. Now, if I ask them if they were an android, the human would say no. So yeah, are you human is the correct question? Which of these questions will get the response no? Are you an android? They've been trying to keep their communication secret, but Marv is determined to sort out the androids and figure out their plan. Questions with guaranteed answers are nice, but Marv would really like to have a question that lets him quickly identify a being as a human or an android. Now, Marv is about to ask a question. Which question's answer will reveal whether the answering being is a human or an android. You can assume that Marv will understand the answers from the beings. Okay. Right, let's go through them. If I asked if you were a human, would you say yes? So, if I asked if you were a human, would you say yes to a human? The answer would be, if I asked if you were a human, would you say yes? Well, a human would say yes, because they are a human. Now, if I asked that to an android, if I asked if you were a human, would you say yes? Right, let's forget about the first part of the question. Are you a human? Yes. If I asked if you were a human, now that bit there, if I asked, does that mean that they're going to say the opposite? So they would lie if you just asked an android if you were a human. So if I asked if you were a human, they're going to lie again. That's a double lie, which makes it a truth. I think. Is that correct? Right, so if I asked an android if you are a human, they would say no. I think. I think that's with the difference between asking and saying if I asked. Right, so let's do this again, but with an android. So if I asked a human, if I asked if you were an android, you would say no, obviously. So if I asked an android, if I asked if you were an android, so if I asked an android, are you an android? They would say no, because they would lie. But if you add if I asked, then it would tell the truth and it would say yes. Okay. And then both questions will reveal the answering being's type. Right, so what's the question? Now Marv is about to ask a question which question's answer will reveal whether the answering being is human or android. I think both of them. Because they're both going to tell the truth. Putting if I asked at the beginning of a question is making the android tell the truth. So it doesn't matter which question I ask, they're going to tell the truth. Oh, fantastic. Right, okay. Oh dear. Asking how these beings would answer questions reveals exactly what they are. Marv is making progress, separating the humans from the androids. Ask how they or someone else would answer. When a being talks about how they or someone else would answer, it can tell you a lot. Okay. Marv asks each of two new beings, if I asked the other being if they were human, what would they say? Oh my god, my brain is going to explode. Oh god. Right, come on now. I feel like I've used up all my brain power just on that first section. Right, okay. If I asked the other being if they were human, what would they say? So the if I asked is basically making the android tell the truth. So they're both going to tell the truth. Identify the beings as human or android. So if you asked Doyle if he was human, if you asked Doyle if he was human, he would say no. So it's making them tell the truth, isn't it? This if you asked. So are you human? No. Are you human? Yes. Is that right? I feel like that's right. I don't think I've got it the opposite way round. Oh, I've got it the opposite way round. I don't believe it. How have I managed this? If you asked, oh my goodness gracious me. Am I completely wrong here? That would make him an android. Oh my god. This is just too much. I think I've reached my limit of my brain. My brain has no more power. Okay. If you asked Doyle if he was human, he would say no. In a men, in a men. If you asked if they would say, now, if Farhad is human and you're asking what Farhad thinks Doyle would say, then because Doyle is an android, Farhad would say that Doyle would lie. I think that's what's going on here. I think that's what's going on here. So does that mean that it's the opposite way round? Right, let me see if I can puzzle this out. If you asked Doyle if he was human, he would say no. Oh my goodness gracious me. This is just so difficult. In a minute. Going back to the previous answers. Hmm. Right, right. I think regardless of whether they're human or android, they're gonna say the same answer. Oh my goodness gracious me. So it's impossible to determine which they are from the question. Enemen, Enemen. the way that you determine which they are from the question is whether it says no or yes. Now, which one is which? My brain's gonna explode. There's so many negatives cancelling each other out. It's right. This is a challenging one. Right, if you asked Farhad. Right, so basically they have to be opposite, because if they weren't opposite, they would say the same answer. So one of them has to be an android, one of them has to be a human. We've already tried Farhad as the human. So Doyle has to be the human. So the one that says yes is the human. But I can't quite figure it out why. If you asked Farhad if he was a human, he would say yes because he's an android. So we've identified the fact that they're different because they're giving different answers. And we've identified the fact that this one's the android because he's lying and he's saying yes, where he's saying no because he's telling the truth, and humans tell the truth. So it's not about what they are saying, it's about how the android or the human would answer. So if it says yes, it means the opposite of android. Okay, I think I figured it out. So if you say yes, he is a human, got to remember that it's human and not android, because this might come up again on the next question. Right, let's make a note of this. So if you ask if he's a human and he says yes, and they are an android, then it's true because they're lying. And you would assume that an android would lie. Now, if you asked the same question and he was a human, if you asked Farhad if he was a human, would he say yes? He would also say yes. So this doesn't determine whether they are an android or a human. So this question here does not determine what they are. We know that they're different because the questions that they're asking are different. And because we know they're different and that this one is a human, because this one is asking the yes question and this one is asking the no question. So right. Let's see. If you are asking the yes question, then you are human, but you can't tell the identity. You can't tell the identity of the other person. Now, if you're asking the no question about a human, then it would say no because he's telling the truth and humans aren't an android. In a minute, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. If you asked Doyle if he was a human, he would say no, but he wouldn't. He would say yes. So are they both human? Right, if you asked Doyle if he was a human, no, they have to be different. They have to be. They can't both be human because they'd say the same thing. If you asked Doyle if he was a human, oh, this is impossible. Are they both androids? Is that what's going on? I cannot figure it out. Right, I've given up. I've given up. Let's go on show explanation. If you asked Doyle if he was a human, would he say no? Use the arrow keys to view the solution. If you asked any being if they were a human, they would say yes. That makes Doyle's statement true for sure. Okay. Yeah, we worked that bit out. That it doesn't matter if they are an android or a human. However, Farhad is lying that Doyle would say no. Therefore, he is an android. But what is this if you asked business? If we take the if you asked part out and just said, is Doyle human? He would also say no. So what is the point in adding this if you asked? Right, so if he is a human, he would tell the truth and say no. Inaman, no, 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 no. He would lie because he's an android and say no. But if Doyle was an android, he would say yes because he's lying. Oh my goodness gracious me. This is so mind-boggling, it's unbelievable. Right, right, okay, okay. Right. I've just been to the toilet, and while I was on the toilet, it's just dawned on me why this is an easy answer that I should have got first time. So, because he says yes to are you a human, we know he's a human. Because the questions were different, yes and no, we know that the other one has to be an android. So the fact that you say if you asked is irrelevant. Basically, when you say if you ask, you are making the human and the android give the same answer. If you don't say if you asked, they're going to give different answers, which then mean that you can't separate between the two. Because an android would lie when asked, are you human? He would also say yes. So you wouldn't be able to identify him as the human without this if you asked part in. So that is the relevance of if you asked. Getting them to give the same answer. Yeah, I think that's correct. Oh no, this is about if you asked Farhad if he was human. So this is asking if an android, if you're asking an android if he's human, not if you're asking yourself if yourself is a human. So in a minute, we've already discovered that It doesn't matter if this one's human or android. They would always say yes if the asker is a human. Oh God, yeah, yeah. I think I figured it out, but my goodness, I I don't know. I don't know. Right. Marv asks each of two more beings, if I asked you if the other being, excuse me. Right, I'll try again. If I asked the other being if you were human, what would they say? Right. Is this exactly the same as the other one? Right, let's have a look, see if this is different to the other one. Right, this is if he was a human. This is if you asked them if I was a human. So that is the difference between the two. I'm gonna have to use my brain again, aren't I? Oh God, not my brain. My brain's broken. Right, let's see if we can figure this out. Right, I'm gonna grab a pen and paper again. Right, let's just say the yes is a human again, because it worked for the other one. It's gonna be the opposite, isn't it? Right, let's pretend Bina is a human. If you asked Nayeli if I was a human, she would say yes, which means that Nayeli would have to be a human as well. So they would both have to be human, which means she can't be a human because they're giving different answers. So they can't both be human because they're giving different answers. So either they're both androids, but they can't both be androids because they're giving different answers. So Nayeli has to be the human. Has to be. Right, let's test it for Nayeli. If you asked Bina if I was a human, she would say no. She would say no because she was an android. She would lie and say no. That has to be correct. Oh, thank goodness that's made up for the last one. Right, Marv encounters two last beings, Taj and Yuri. Marv asks Taj, is Yuri an android? Taj looks around to see if there are any robots listening. Then he whispers his answer to Yuri. Okay, so we don't know Taj's answer. When you asked Taj if I was an android, oh God, my brain is broken. If when you asked Taj if I was an android, he said yes. What must be true? So we can only identify one of them as being either a human or an android. So we need to identify one of them as human or android. So, right, let's just put Yuri as a human for now. When you asked Taj if I was an android, he said yes. Okay, so if Taj was human, he would say yes if she was an android. Now, if Taj was an android, Right, so these are mutually exclusive then. Yeah, they're mutually exclusive. It's either human and android or human and android the other way round. So that's not giving us any answers whatsoever if Yuri is a human. So if Yuri is an android, when you asked Taj if I was an android, he said yes. So Taj would have to be a human. When you asked Taj if I was an android, he said yes. Inaman, this feels wrong. Something's wrong here. If she was an android, she would lie. When you asked Taj if I was an android, he said yes. So if she's an android, then that means he actually said no. So if she was an android, right, if she was an android, he couldn't be an android. I feel like this shouldn't be that difficult. When the show explanation says 1 out of 2, that means that it's not difficult. Right, okay. So if she's an android, he can't be an android. He has to be human. Now, if she is human, when you asked Taj if I was an android, he said yes. Now, he would say yes if he was an android, which means if she is human, there's only one possible answer. I swear, what am I missing here? What am I missing here? I must be missing something. I don't get this one. I don't get this one at all. It feels like they're mutually exclusive. So how is that helping me identify what is true? This is a tough one. This is a real tough one. I've reread the question. There doesn't seem to be any hidden messaging in there. Because I was thinking it might say Taj looks around to see if there are any other robots, and then it'd tell you that he is a robot, but no, that's not in there. Right, when you asked Taj if he was an android, he said yes. Right, wait a second. If she was an android, when you asked Taj if I was an android, she would lie and say he said no. And if she's human, when you asked Taj if I was an android, he said yes, because he's lying. So both answers are android. I think Taj is an android. Oh, thank God. Wow. That took me a long time to figure that out. That should not have taken me that long. That was painful. That was really, really painful. I think I've lost all my brain power. I think I'm going to have to call it a day for this. I know it's not been the longest episode, but I feel completely pooped after that one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to call it a day. I can't do another one. It's too much for me. It's too much for me. But anyway, I hope hope you enjoyed it. I hope you did better than I did. And I hope you join me for the next one, where hopefully my brain will be able to work these things out a little bit quicker. But anyway, cheers for watching. Take care, and I shall see you soon.